Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsey's Little Library. So I'm here today to talk to you about, or to share with you, my top favorite books of 2020. I thought about limiting myself to 10, and then I thought, well, maybe it's like the top 20 of 2020, but I ended up with 15. So we'll split the difference. It's fine, it works. I'm gonna save like my top 5 for the end, and I'll talk about my top 5, but so these other 10 are not in a particular order, and if I haven't confused you yet, I'm amazed because I'm confusing myself. Anyways, let's talk about the books, okay? So 2020 was a really good year. I read 80, I think I'm gonna finish the year by reading about 82, maybe 83 books. I've read 80 for sure. I'm in the middle of 3. I should at least finish 2 of them, maybe 3 of them, we'll see. But that's a lot of books. I don't think I've ever read that many books in a year. So one positive of being in a pandemic, I got to read more. So that's good. All right, let's talk about what are these great books that you need to pick up, all of them. So get a piece of paper out, open up your Goodreads, whatever you want to do, take note, okay? First one I want to talk about is The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. This is the first book I read of 2020, and it has stayed on that top. I mean, it stayed up there this entire year. Jennifer McMahon has this way of writing these creepy books with these unbelievable creatures, yet believable creatures, and The Winter People kind of follows that. So The Winter People explores this question of like, what if you could bring somebody back from the dead? And maybe what would that look like? And let's just say it's not great. But it's fascinating. It takes place, I think there's dual timelines. It takes place in the winter at a creepy farmhouse with noises that are happening behind nailed up shut doors. And it really does explore this like question of what if we can bring people back from the dead? What would that look like? It's amazing. I don't want to give too much more else away because I think you need to go into it somewhat blind. Just read it, okay? Just read it. The next book I want to talk about is The Other People by C.J. Tudor. I read a couple C.J. Tudor books this year, but this was by far in my favorites of the year. So Other People follows this main character, and he's driving along the highway, and he's late at getting home. We don't know where he's been, but we know it's kind of like somewhat of a secret as to where he had been during the day. But he's driving home, and all of a sudden he comes and he's in traffic, and the vehicle in front of him, it's a little car, and there's a little girl peering out the back window of the vehicle, and you could tell that she was in distress, and he realizes it's his daughter. And so he's following this car, and the car picks up that he's following her and kind of loses him along the way. And his cell phone, I think it ran out of battery or something like that. He had to pull off to the side of the road and go to the gas station. He calls home to be like, what the heck is going on with our kid? And I believe a police officer answers and basically says, you need to get home. Your wife and daughter have been murdered. Yet he just saw his daughter in this unknown vehicle racing away, and she was obviously taken. So it takes you on this wild ride of craziness from there, and it is absolutely fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved it. Like, wow. Another book that is in my top favorites of the year is The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. I also read the Happily Ever After playlist. Also fantastic. Friend Zone, I'm going to say a little bit higher than the other one just because this is my first take on Abby Jimenez's books, and did not disappoint. Oh my gosh. The snarkiness and the back and forth banter between these characters is on point. It is fantastic. It is awesome. So this follows Kristen. She doesn't do drama. She doesn't deal with shit. She's a go-getter. Her best friend's getting married, and she's in the wedding. And then I believe she's maid of honor. She ends up meeting the best man. His name is Josh, and they do not hit it off. But they have to because they're in this wedding together, and they're both their best friends, and they kind of have to figure it out. And it is so funny. It is so funny. And she has this dog named Stuntman Mike, and her dog even loves Josh more. And it's hilarious. I loved it. And then if you read this one, definitely read this one, and then read Happy Ever After playlist. Equally amazing, but read Friend Zone first. absolutely read Friend Zone first. Are they standalones? Yes, but I really think you need to read Friend Zone before the other one. So that was another one that I loved. I'm gonna reference my list here in my pile of books. Let's see, what's my other one? The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. I don't know where that book is. I'm missing books. I don't know. The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I read that at the same time I was reading The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek, and they were both dealing with similar topics, and they were talking about the Kentucky Library project that took place. Trying to think of the years. Anyways, in the past, I can't think of what year it was, but it's a historical fiction, so it follows kind of the start of this library pack mule type project. So basically what this would do is they would saddle up their horses or their mules, load up on books, and they would go out into the no man's land basically of Kentucky, up into the hills and the mountains, to deliver library books to families and kids and people who wouldn't have access to them otherwise. So based on true story. I liked The Giver of Stars a little bit more. There was just a little bit more to the stories and to the characters, and I found myself getting roped into it a little bit more than The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. Both of them are fantastic reads, but Giver of Stars was a little bit more for me. There's a little more drama involved. Fantastic read. Highly recommend that one as well. Another book I read that, or I shouldn't say, I listened to the audiobook version of In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle, and really enjoyed this one. I found myself finding reasons to go for walks like all the time when I was listening to this book. So highly recommended on audio. But this follows our main character, and she basically has her life planned out, and I think it starts out with like, here's my next 5-year plan. Like, they're gonna get engaged, they're going to she had work aspirations involved there. Things were set. It was written for the next 5 years. She fell asleep at night. She ends up waking up 5 years later. She's not with the man she was before. She's not living where she was before, and she's not even in the same job she was before. And quickly kind of realizes this fairly, I think within a day or so, ends up falling asleep, coming back to kind of our present day, so 5 years in the past. So she had this like glimpse at what her life could either potentially turn. She doesn't really know what to make of this. She kind of brushes it off as a dream. But she knows it was a little bit more than a dream, but she's not really sure what to make of this. And then she starts kind of questioning what she's doing in the present day. And it just was a really enjoyable book. It makes you think about how quickly, you might have things really set in stone, which is kind of me. I know where I want to be and what I want to do, and sometimes that doesn't happen. So it was a really great book. Highly recommend that one as well. I read a lot of fantasy this year, more than I have before. I actually started and finished an entire series this year. What? Yeah, and it's making my list. The Illuminati Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This probably is not news to anybody out there, but it was fantastic. I read all 3 books this year. They are beefy, but they're told in such a unique way. It is through like a case file, basically. So you have emails, you have like text messages, you have observations, you have maps, all kinds of stuff in here. It's fantastic. It is science fiction. It's YA, so it's easy to follow and to get yourself lost into it. And so it follows basically this planet that is mining some sort of metal, and they're doing it illegally. So this other company, this biotech company, comes up and kind of starts a war with them, and the survivors from this planet are on this ship, and they're trying to run away from these guys. It is awesome. Highly recommend. Definitely not my usual wheelhouse, so I was just surprised at how much I loved it, but pick that one up if you haven't already. And then I've made some massive progress in my Throne of Glass series. So Emperor of Storms is making my list by Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas is the ultimate battle scene writer. Oh my God, she just does such an amazing job. And then she does such an amazing job of planting these little Easter eggs and these little hints throughout the story. And then all of a sudden, bam, right at a time you're like, oh shit, Of course that's what was happening this whole time. Why didn't I even think of that? But it totally makes sense. It's amazing. This whole series, this is the 5th book, 6th book. I don't know, pretty late in the series. So I can't really tell you what this specific one is about, but Throne of Glass follows an assassin, Selena Sardathian, as she works for the king, and all this other shit's going on. It's just, it's awesome. Which is a really bad way to explain this book. If you want to know more, send me a message. We can talk more about it. Look it up. But, and Selena is just this super strong, amazing, well, starts out as a girl, turns into this awesome woman who is like it's just awesome. It's awesome. I don't know how else to describe it other than it's amazing. So I read this one. I also read Tower of Dawn. Wasn't as in love with Tower of Dawn as I was with this one. Every single page of this kept my interest, and we flew through that book. It was awesome. I don't know how many, can I say awesome anymore? I don't think so. All right, last couple books before I get to my top 5. Another one I picked up that I loved this year is Hum If You Don't Know the Words by Bianca Maris. Finally picked up a book by her. Absolutely enjoyed this one. I like soaked this up. This is on the lines of like Frederick Bachman to me, where there's all these little hidden quotes and sayings and thoughts that I just fell in love with. And my favorite quote from a book for 2020 is in this book. Here it is. Anger is a self-administered poison. Anger is a self-administered poison. Yeah, it is. So, fantastic book. This takes place in Johannesburg, South Africa in the 1970s. So it's during the apartheid. So we have Robin, who's a 9-year-old white girl, living with her parents, and then Beauty, who is a black woman living in a village, but having to come to Johannesburg to search for her daughter. Beauty is put in charge of Robin. How did that happen again? Robin's parents die in an attack. She lives with her aunt then. Beauty is hired to help take care of Robin. Robin and Beauty kind of team up to try to figure out what happened to Beauty's daughter. Oh my God, it's amazing. These, like I said, these little nuggets of truth that correspond with stuff that happened in our world this year. It was a timely book for me, which is probably why I liked it even more, but I love this. I loved her writing. I can't wait to pick up her other one. I think it's If You Want to Make God Laugh. I want to get to that one as well. And then another book I fell in love with this year is Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon. Oh, Oregon Trail, heading west on an adventure, bit of a romance, cowboys and Indians. It was fantastic. The thing that makes this book amazing is the first, I think, 6 pages, I want to say. So it gives you this prologue, or this prologue of like, this is what's going to happen later. And in 6 pages, Amy Harmon takes your heart out and stomps on it and punches it and puts it back in 6 pages. To the point where I'm like, I don't even know if I want to go on, because if this is what's happening in 6 pages, how am I going to survive the rest of the book? You will, and you do. Trust me. So you get this little glimpse as to what's going to happen, and then when you start the book, you go back in time to when like Naomi Maine and her whole family is kind of heading off out west, and kind of seeing the build up and what happens to get to the point of the prologue of what you just read, and then the aftermath. So we have Naomi, we have John. John is half Indian. He ends up joining along with Naomi and her family as they head out on this wagon train. And there's a number of other characters. There's ones in here that you're really not going to like, but they need to be there. There's this awesome relationship between fathers and sons. There's this awesome relationship between mothers and daughters. The heartbreak, the rewards, the adventure that happens in this book is all fantastic. I loved it. Pick this up. You will not be disappointed, especially if you're a historical fiction junkie like I am. You'll love it. Okay, top 5. Oh, I didn't talk about one, but that kind of makes sense. Hold on, let's figure this out. Okay, top 5. I did forget one, and that's okay because it kind of goes along with this one. I read 2 Riley Sagar books. I only have 1 Riley Sagar book to go. I really wanted to read all of his books this year, but it didn't quite happen. Anyways, Home Before Dark is in my top 5. The other book I read, okay, this could they could go hand in hand. So I read Lock Every Door and Home Before Dark. Both creepy, both threw me off, caught me by surprise. I didn't guess things. Very atmospheric, psychological thrillers. Fantastic. I would say they're probably tied for 5th favorite book of the year. Home Before Dark and Lock Every Door. Next one I loved is The Alice Network. I finally read this. I know. This is by Kate Quinn, and I love this book. This has dual timelines. We are talking 1915 during World War I, and then 1947 just after World War II. And it follows this spy network called the Alice Network. It follows the people who are involved with them, as well as in 1947, they're searching for, our main character in 1947 is Charlie, and we're searching for her cousin. But she gets wind of kind of figuring out this Alice Network, and she teams up with, what's her name? With Alice. No. She's part of the Alice Network. With Lily? Teamed up with Lily. Oh my god, but this woman, I want to be her when I'm old. Like, she is so freaking awesome. So I love this book. I want more of this book. I want more of Charlie. It was so awesome. I loved it. Pick that up. 3rd favorite book of the year, Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. And it could be because I was reading this in a hotel by myself and I was creeping myself out. Totally possible. But this follows dual timelines. Again, my favorite. It happens in New York. We have 1982 and in 2017. So in 2017, Carly is trying to figure out what happened to her Aunt Viv back in 1982. So we're seeing what actually happened and what Carly's trying to figure out. It all goes down at the very haunted Sundown Motel, and there are ghosts. There is a ghost that smokes cigarettes, that I could legit smell cigarettes while I was reading this. It was fantastic. It is creepy, creepy, creepy. Awesome. I love this book. All right, down to my top 2. 2nd favorite book of the year, The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. Another dual timeline book. I know, it's my thing. But this really follows Carly Sears, and it's 1970. She finds out she's pregnant shortly after her husband is killed in the Vietnam War. And then she finds out that her baby has some sort of heart defect and pretty much won't survive. She's telling her family, and her brother-in-law basically says, I can help you. I'm from the future. In the future, this heart defect is easy to fix. So there's time travel. There are surprises that come out of nowhere. It's just so awesome. It's so awesome, and just kind of shows you the lengths that a mother will go through to help their child. So it's fantastic. Highly recommend that one. My number 1 book of the year is Codename Helene by Ariel Lawhon. Ariel Lawhon, oh my god, she's fantastic. This follows Nancy Wake, 1936, right as World War II is starting. She gets into as being a female spy. That was kind of my theme this year. I don't know why. But she has 4 different code names she goes through, and so this kind of goes back and forth amongst all these code names and kind of shows you what she did, the impact she made in the war, and the adventures and trouble and craziness she got into, and the badass that she was. Oh my god, she was awesome. It's thick, it's bulky, it will go fast. It is a fantastic read. Pick this one up for sure. I can't believe in my top 5, 2 of them are female spy novels. Whatever, I love it. So those are my top 15 books of 2020. Let me know if you've read any of them. If you haven't, pick them up and get them right now. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you. See you soon. Bye.